Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon. And then I post this up to all the social media things, which I have not done one in a while, and I need to do that. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other therapist for that matter. Boom shakalaka done. I'd like to thank my sponsor, BetterHelp, BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Chris Godinez. They're an online therapy company. They are international. So if you need to get to a therapist, go to betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez, fill out some questions. They'll place you with a licensed master's level or PhD level, either in that state or that can do international. So thank you, betterhelp.com/Chris Godinez. Okay. So current events today is Super Bowl Sunday. I wanted to give you an update on the dog. The dog was found. Thank you, St. Francis. The dog was found. So the dog is safe. The dog is back with the lady owner. Everything's good. So that is just, I just wanted to give you guys an update. And apparently it happened right after I posted it. So it's like typical, it's like, oh, new information. So, anyway, what I wanted to remind you guys of is that abusers will abuse pets, and they will use the pets to hurt you. They'll use the kids to hurt you. They'll use friends to hurt you. They'll use whatever they think they can to hurt you. So just keep that in mind. So today is Super Bowl Sunday. Traditionally, this is a day where there are a lot of domestic violence calls, unfortunately. So I wanted to just give you a brief little, what to do. If you're stuck in a situation where your abuser is dangerous and abusing and you need to get the hell out. So a couple of years ago, a very, 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 very smart lady pretended to order pizza. And so 9/11 operators are clued into that now, is that people who cannot say, yes, I need you, pretend to order pizza. So, what's your emergency? Oh, I need to order a large pepperoni pizza. Well, ma'am, this is 911. Yes. And how long will that take? That kind of thing. So you want to, and if you need to get out, make an excuse. Oh, I ran out of sugar. I ran out of ketchup. I ran out of whatever. I need to go to the neighbors and borrow some. Get out of the house and call from there if you need to. So it's just something good to know. So there that is. And don't be afraid of doing that with 911. If you need to get out, if it's a dangerous situation, make your abuser think you're talking to somebody else or something else. And pizza is the easiest way to do that. Oh, yes, I absolutely said pepperoni. Yep. That kind of thing. So anyway, there that is. Hello, everyone. Okay, so today's topic, that was my current events because I figured today is Super Bowl Sunday. Go Niners. Today's topic, actually go both. See, this is the kind of game I love because no matter who wins, I'm going to be happy because I'm a Northern California chick. So Niners are my team. But then Joe Montana went and played for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I started rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs. So now I wrote for both of them. And now it's like, oh, I don't care who wins because that's fine with me. I'm okay, but go Niners. Anyway, so there that is. All right. So dissociative identity disorder. So I want to talk about all of the dissociative disorders because inevitably, well, not inevitably, not everyone has it, but a lot of survivors of abuse have one of these dissociative disorders because of the trauma. So I want to be very, 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 very clear. Dissociative identity disorders, multiple personalities, that's what that one is. It's the multiples. Dissociative disorders where you just check out, lights are on, engines running, could be for hours, days, weeks, months, sometimes years. And you have no memory of it. So that's when people come to me and say, oh, I don't remember my childhood. And I'm like, ooh, red flag on the play, 5-yard penalty. Let's figure this out, So that tells me that there's a trauma there. So all of these dissociative disorders are trauma-based. Absolutely, 110%. And nothing makes me angrier than when somebody, well, two things happen. People who are con artists try to pretend they have multiple personalities, or sometimes, murderers try to do that to get out of their consequences. And that throws a bad light on the people that really do have dissociative identity disorder. Or there's people that don't understand trauma at all, period, and they poo-poo anybody who has dissociative identity disorder. And that makes me angry too. So it's kind of like, oh my God. So yeah, there are people that are malingerers that will try to pretend to have a mental health issue in order to get out of legal consequences or financial consequences or whatever. And then you have the ones who just don't believe in mental health issues at all, period, which just annoys the crap out of me. And both of them hurt people that really do have dissociative disorders. So let's talk about the different types of disorders. Okay. All right. So it's basically, and I love the Mayo Clinic for this because they definitely go, yes, this is a trauma response. Dissociative disorders usually arise as a reaction to trauma, shocking, distressing, or painful events, and help push away the difficult memories. Symptoms depend in part on the type of dissociative disorder and can range from memory loss to disconnected identities. Times of stress can worsen the symptoms for a while, making them easier to see. Treatment for dissociative disorders may include talk therapy, also called psychotherapy, and or medicine. Treating dissociative disorders can be difficult, but many people learn new ways of coping and their lives do get better. Okay, symptoms. Symptoms depend on the type of dissociative disorder, but may include a sense of being separated from yourself and your emotions. So it's almost like you're kind of watching things in a movie kind of thing. It's like it's happening, but you're there, but you're not really there, and you're just not really feeling, and you're not really, it's almost like a sense of unrealness. Now, I experienced that when I was in college because I had left home completely, got away from mom and dad, started doing my own stuff, terrified. My mom filled my head with so many fears. And I would have this sense of almost being like a ghost. It's like, oh, I'm just wandering through these halls and I'm here, but I'm not here, but I'm here, but I'm not really feeling anything, but I am, but I'm not. It's the weirdest feeling in the world. It is very uncomfortable. I did not enjoy it. So it's separating yourself from your emotions and kind of like watching things from a movie kind of thing. Thinking that people and things around you are distorted and not real. Yeah, I had that as well. A blurred sense of your own identity. Severe stress or problems in relationship, work, or other important areas of life. Not being able to cope well with emotional or work-related stress. Memory loss, also called amnesia, of certain time periods, events, people, and personal information. Mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts or behaviors, PTSD. They leave out PTSD, but they should put it in there because if you've gone through trauma, you have PTSD. So, and I can relate to a lot of those because I was definitely suicidal when I was a teenager. I definitely felt a sense of unrealness. Is this real? Is this not real? Am I alive? Am I dead? What's going on? Difficult time coping with stress, and when you're moving away from your abusers and going into a social situation, you don't know how to act. They didn't teach you. You have no clue how the social rules work because they never taught you. So anyway, so depersonalization, derealization disorder. Depersonalization involves a sense of separation from yourself or feeling like you're outside of yourself. You may feel as if you're seeing your actions, feelings, thoughts, or yourself from a distance, like watching a movie. Derealization involves a feeling that other people and things are separate from you and seem foggy or dreamlike. Yeah, that's for sure. Time may seem to slow down. Or speed up. No, that never happened to me, but I suppose it does happen to other people. The world may seem unreal. Yes, it did. Sometimes it still does. Don't get me started. Okay. You may go through depersonalization, derealization, or both. Symptoms, which can be very distressing, may last for hours, days, weeks, or months. They may come and go, which is what mine did, depending on the stress level, over many years, or they may become ongoing. So the good news is with therapy, honest to God, that it really helped it go away. It really did. So I got into therapy. I had my own therapist when I was in high school. My dad made sure that ended, but he couldn't stop me from going to the counseling center at the college. So I immediately went to the counseling center and started working on this sense of unrealness. And so that's, started processing a little bit more of the trauma, a little bit more of the fears. It was a lot of fear. So there is that. And so a lot of survivors have that depersonalization, derealization because of the trauma, because we can't cope with it. It's like when you're a little kid and it's your family of origin, especially. I mean, this can happen also with a romantic partner, but especially with a family of origin. If they're abusive, man, we just check out and we watch things from a distance. It's the safest way to do it. And that's what we did. That was part of our survival to stay safe. Because if we didn't, we'd probably go crazy, like absolutely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You know what I'm saying? Okay, dissociative amnesia. The main symptom of dissociative amnesia is memory loss. So this is when, like I said, people come in and they're like, I have no memory between the ages of 6 and 12. What happened during the ages of 6? Something happened, because normally you remember stuff. You can remember stuff all the way to about age 2. Beyond that, it's a little harder to remember, but beyond, getting to age 2, that's usually when people can start remembering things. So if there's a whole chunk of time that you don't remember, like it's just like literally somebody went in and erased the tape, something happened. There's some trauma that happened that caused that memory loss. Hold on one second. Okay. Okay. The main symptom of dissociative amnesia is a memory loss that's more severe than usual forgetfulness. The memory loss can't be explained by a medical condition. You can't recall information about yourself or events or people in your life, especially from a time when you felt shock, distress, pain, trauma. A bout of dissociative amnesia usually occurs suddenly. It may last minutes, hours, and rarely months or years. Now, I wouldn't say rarely because I've seen enough trauma clients to know that it's not that rare. I think when they say rarely, I think it doesn't get reported, honestly, because how freaky is that to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor and just be like, yeah, I can't remember anything. Because, usually a lot of people don't admit to that. But when I'm working with my clients and they feel comfortable, yeah, they'll be like, yeah, I can't remember from age 6 to 12. Yeah, and that's usually the age range. So sometimes it's older, sometimes it's younger, but usually it's about 6 to 12. So a lot of people I don't think report it because they either think that it's normal. Oh, this is just normal. A lot of people don't remember their childhood, and that's not normal. Most people do remember their childhood. Or they're afraid to admit it because they're afraid that they're crazy. That's a valid concern, because it's like you tell somebody, I can't remember chunk of time. You think you're crazy. You don't want somebody else telling you you're crazy. You're not crazy. This is a response to trauma. This is your brain's way of going, let me protect you from this memory because this sucked and you can't handle it right now. Because when you're 6, you can't. When you're an adult, you can, but when you're 6, you can't. So your brain's trying to protect you. And it helped then, but it's not helping now. Does that make sense? Which is why it's really important to get with a good trauma therapist that knows what they're doing, not just a weekend class, and to really start working on recovering those memories. Now, those memories will not just pop up until you feel comfortable. When you feel safe, when you feel secure, you're going to start remembering more. So I just want to warn you about that. And I tell my clients this too. It's like, look, as you work on your self-esteem, as you work on your boundaries, as you work on, really reaffirming who you really are, separate from these abusive jackwagons that were your parents or your romantic partner or whatever, you're going to start remembering things. So just be prepared. It's going to pop up. And that's what we want. We want you to start remembering so you can start processing it so that you master it, so that you are the master of that. That incident is not the master of you. That's what you want. Okay. Dissociative amnesia can be specific to events in a certain time, such as intense combat. So obviously wars, etc. More rarely, it can involve complete loss of memory about yourself. It sometimes may involve travel or confused wandering away from your life. This confused wandering is called dissociative fugue. So that's like when you read in the newspaper about, hey, this person showed up in our town, no identification. They don't know who they are. They don't know where they came from. Can you help identify them? That's a dissociative fugue. That person has just up and left, no clue who they are. And that does happen. It can happen. Absolutely. 110%. It's not just a movie plot. It does happen. Okay, dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. This disorder involves switching to other identities. Why? Because the original identity can't cope, just can't cope. So another identity comes in and handles whatever needs to happen. And usually it'll switch back when the need is done. Not always, though. There's some issues with other personalities trying to take over, but and that does happen. But so yeah, so basically again, it's the brain going, whoa, this is a situation that this one cannot cope with. I'm going to create this alternate, person that can cope with it. And so this alternate personality steps in and handles it. So say, for example, we couldn't deal with confrontation. Okay, like lots of punishment or getting hit or whatever. And anytime we tried to confront our abuser. So then eventually what will happen is the original personality will be like, I can't cope with this. And the brain will go, here, I gotcha. And bring somebody in that can. So it's a coping strategy. It's a coping mechanism, but it's good in the short term because it kind of helps us get through the trauma. But then once we're out in the rest of the world and there's no abusers around us, it kind of doesn't serve us that well. Okay. You may feel as if you have two or more people living inside of your head. You may feel like you're possessed by other identities. Each identity may have a unique name, personal history, and features. These identities can sometimes include a difference in voice, gender, mannerisms, and even physical qualities as the need for eyeglasses. And it's very true. I've had clients of one gender whose alternate was the opposite gender. And that personality protected the client. I could see why it was happening. So yeah, sometimes they need glasses when they don't need glasses. It's very interesting. I usually refer them to somebody who's got more experience with D.I.D. But just believing them helps a lot, seriously. So, and talking about the trauma and letting them know, hey, you're going to have to start remembering. All of you are going to have to start remembering, and you're safe, you're okay. You're not crazy. This is a coping mechanism. Don't let anybody put you down. Don't let anybody stigmatize you. And that's what bothers me, is that movies and TV get this wrong all the time. And they attribute it to schizophrenia as opposed to dissociative identity disorder. Schizophrenia is something completely different. So, little side note, schizophrenia is it's a brain chemistry issue. This is not a brain chemistry issue. This is a behavioral trauma issue. Okay. Schizophrenia is a malformation of the 23rd genome that gets triggered for some reason around the ages of 14 to 28. So hormones, maybe, who knows? And with schizophrenia, it's not different personalities coming in to take over. The original person is still there, but they hear like a negative voice on one side and a positive voice on the other, and they're screaming at each other. Which is why I get so angry with the police departments, because when they deal with schizophrenics, they often end up getting shot because they're not able to obey orders. So if you want to know what it's like to have schizophrenia, have a friend stand on one side and just scream negative stuff, and another one on the other side scream positive stuff, and argue with each other, and have somebody stand in front of you and give you orders and see how well you do. You know what I'm saying. Please don't understand. They really need to have a social worker or somebody on those types of calls. But anyway, so dissociative identity disorder is different. So it's not two voices screaming at each other. The original personality usually steps back and the alternate comes in and handles the business, or it may say, hey, excuse me, I need to come in now, and it does. So it's still the person. It's just that there's two different personalities or more, helping this person cope with whatever trauma is going on. Okay. There are also differences in how familiar each identity is with the others. Now, some people with dissociative identity disorder, everybody knows everybody else. I've had that. Not me personally, but I've helped people with that. Other people, they have personalities that come in and they don't know about the other ones. Dissociative identity disorder usually also includes bouts of amnesia and often includes times of confused wandering. Something that is consistent with all of these, whether it's depersonalization or D.I.D, anxiety, depression, lots of anxiety, lots of depression, and it's because of the trauma that has not been dealt with. So, okay, when to see a doctor. Sometimes dissociative disorder symptoms occur in a crisis with severe or impulsive behavior. People with these symptoms need care more urgently and in an emergency department at a hospital when safety becomes a concern. If your loved one has a less urgent symptom that may be a dissociative disorder, contact your doctor or other healthcare professional for help. So often that is also associated with dissociative disorders is suicide. Suicidal, again, why? Because if you've been through trauma, if you've lived through trauma, that thought is not always there, but it is often a go-to thought, especially if you haven't been able to access and process the original trauma. So suicide, honestly, people with dissociative disorders, myself included, when I was a teenager, remember, I was suicidal. I wanted out of that family so bad. I seriously considered it. Seriously, like I seriously considered it. And then I didn't, thank God. Um, but it's a thought that we have because we feel powerless. And that sometimes is the only thing we have power over, especially if we've got family of origin that's beating the crap out of us and, sexually abusing and mentally abusing and religiously abusing and this, that, and the other thing. Oh, well, look, this thing I have control over. But don't do it, guys. Suicide is a permanent solution to a very temporary problem. So yeah, it will get better if you get help. It does. Honestly, the dissociative symptoms start to go away. Do they ever come back? Yeah, I think in times of high stress, yeah, it can. Absolutely. I haven't really had that depersonalization in a long time, but if things get really, really stressful and if I don't process it out and talk about it, yeah, I could see it coming back. Totally. You got to process this stuff. You can't just shove it down and pretend it doesn't exist. So suicidal. If you are having suicidal thoughts, please call 911 or contact your crisis. So Maricopa County has the Maricopa County Crisis Line. There's also a warm line in the US. You can reach out to 988, which is a suicide and crisis lifeline. It's available 24 hours a day. It's a text. You can call or text them. Veterans can reach out to 988. There's also the veteranCrisisline.net/gethelpnow/chat. And the suicide and crisis line in the US has a Spanish language phone at 1-888-628-9454. So this is all in from the Mayo Clinic. So what I did is I went and I looked up dissociative disorders, Mayo Clinic, boom, there's all your information. So this is what we do when we have a huge amount of trauma and we don't know what to do with it. That's the thing. Because how do I explain this? It's like, oh, and thank you. I just saw that. Thank you. It's like when we're kids, cognitively, I want you to think about this. When we're little kids, our little brains can only cope with so much because we're not fully developed. Our brains don't fully develop until we're about age 28 or so. So our brains are still developing, and emotionally, we don't have the bandwidth to deal with severe abuse, whether that's verbal, sexual, physical, you name it. We can't cope with it. And so our poor little brains just go, boop, not dealing, and we push it aside or we watch it from the corner or we just have amnesia about it and it goes away. But the problem of it is if we do not deal with that trauma, if we just keep shoving it away, shoving it away, shoving it away, it's going to come out in really weird ways, like really weird ways. Like it'll come out as anger inappropriately at the wrong person. It'll come out as self sabotage. It'll come out as obsessive compulsive thoughts. It'll come out as nightmares. It'll come out as, do you see where I'm going with that? So it's kind of like it's really important to, if you're having or if you have had depersonalization, derealization, or dissociative identity disorder, where there's another alternate coming in to take over, thank the alternate because they've been helping you. But it's really, really important to start working on the original trauma. Super, super important, because if you don't, it does come out sideways. How's the best way to put it? It's like being emotionally constipated, is what it is. And it'll just it's trying to find a way out, and it'll come out one way or the other. It's either going to be good or it's going to be a total mess, and you don't want it to be a total mess. So it's better to deal with it and start working with a trauma therapist to get you safe enough to start remembering, to start having those memories. And it's not going to come back all at once. Trust me, our brains, God love our brains, they kind of, a little bit at a time. As we can deal with it, a little bit more comes out. And then as the memories come out, you work with it with your trauma therapist. And that's the best way to do it. So yeah, in a way, it's funny because it's like people get stigmatized for having these issues, but it's our brain's way of protecting us and keeping us safe. So thank you, brain. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me from going completely full goose bozo, because I would have killed myself. I'm pretty sure I would have, I didn't know how to cope, and that's why I got therapy and it helped. So that's why I'm saying it's like, if you've got the depersonalization or the DID, dissociative identity disorder, and you've got alternates, get with a good trauma therapist and work on the trauma. Work on the trauma. Now, some people will tell me, well, I don't want to lose the other personalities. I like them. They help me. Okay, that's great. Work on the trauma. Work on the trauma, because that's really what you need to work on, because you don't want the trauma to come flying out sideways. You don't want to take your anger out on a person that doesn't deserve it. You don't want to sabotage yourself because you're afraid of being found out, or you don't want to sabotage yourself because you're afraid of what the abuser will do or whatever, because we carry that stuff with us. So it's really, really important to take super good care of yourself, work with a trauma therapist, work on the trauma. You don't have to get rid of the personalities if you don't want to, but inevitably what usually ends up happening is, as you don't need them, they start to go away, because it's kind of like, okay, well, I don't need this alternate to come in and help me. I can help myself, because this alternate is me. We are all one, and so, and thank them, because they're there to help you. Honest to God, it's like, even the personalities who express suicidality, in working with those, it's kind of like, yeah, you're expressing the pain. You are the holder of the pain. Absolutely. You have a place, but checking out is not the answer. So let's work on that. So it's every personality, every alternate needs to be thanked, because they're there to try to help. They're there to deal with whatever emotion or trauma that the other personalities couldn't cope with at the time. So they're very brave. So thank them for doing what they needed to do. And I would very much like for all of us to come back together as one, so that we are a united, strong front. So that's really what to work on. So trauma is the basis of it. It is, absolutely. So it's figuring out what the trauma was. Now, it's really interesting to me. Sometimes I will have people that have the amnesia that come in to see me, and they'll be like, oh, I don't remember my life, but it's perfectly fine. Nothing happened. And I'm like, oh, so let's dig a little more into your family of origin. And as they start talking, all of these trauma events start coming out, not even the major trauma, just, dysfunctionality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I have to kind of be like, okay, let's talk about this toxicity here. Let's talk about this dysfunctionality here. Let's talk about this, triangulation of communication. And they'll be like, oh, but I thought it was normal. Yeah, because our abuser normalizes abuse so that we don't go telling people, and they make us think that the way that our family does things is healthy and normal. It is not. So it's really important that if you're missing chunks of time of your childhood, take a look at your family of origin. What was going on? What was happening? Who was around? How old were you when you first started missing time? Who was around? And that's probably your clue as to what happened. So, and it's scary, which is why I'm saying get with a good trauma therapist. You're going to need somebody who's going to need to reassure you and help you process whatever it is that your brain has been trying to keep you from processing because you were too afraid to deal with it because you were a little one probably. So again, inner child work is going to help with that. Don't be surprised if when you start working on the inner child workbook that things start coming up and you're like, oh, and you start remembering more because you're processing it. You're working with that inner child. Please get a trauma therapist to help you through that. You're going to need somebody to help bounce things off of so that you're not feeling alone and you're not feeling crazy and you're not feeling, frightened. And because the little inner child is going to be terrified working on this stuff, honestly. So just be aware of that. And I think the biggest thing is to comfort the inner child. This is okay for us to remember, guys. Hi, good to see you. Have a great day. Mirror work. You know what? Little inner child inside of me, it's okay to remember you're safe now. I will break my foot off in anyone's ass who tries to hurt you. I'm the mama now. I dare them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, let your little one know you're safe and let her know or him know that it's okay to start processing the trauma and it's okay to remember. And I think that's the big thing. It's the safety part. It's like making sure you're safe. So you absolutely do not want to do this if you're still around an abuser. No, wrong. Incorrect response. You got to do this work when you're away from them because this is intensely vulnerable work. This is working on the core issues usually. So usually that time period where we forgot is also where our self-esteem issues came from. I know.
Something went wrong.
What?
Please try again.
Shush. Siri.
Media volume set to 0%.
Nope. Siri, you need to piss off. Okay. Anyway, so I hate technology. Anyway, so that time period, so obviously what I was saying was important. So that time period that you're missing is where the core issues are. This is where the self-esteem issues are. This is where the inner child issues are. This is where the self-sabotaging issues are. This is why you're picking, your picker's broken. This is why you're picking people who remind you of the person you had the hardest time with. If I can make them love me, I prove original family wrong. Half of a doo-doo sandwich, half of a doo-doo sandwich, total doo-doo sandwich. So it's really important to start working on the trauma, working on that time period that you're missing. Inner child work is going to help, but get with a good trauma therapist because you're going to need it. So, all right. Okay. That is that. Let's dive into the questions. Let me make this bigger so I can actually see it. Okay. Do we have D.I.D. if we consciously don't want to talk about something with most people? No. That is a choice. D.I.D. is not a choice. So, I mean, it's a choice, but it's not a choice. D.I.D. is a way of coping when we're young. That's where we first learn it. That's usually when it first occurs, is like early childhood, middle childhood, early teenage years, that type of thing. If we don't want to talk about something with people, that's a choice. It's called nunya business. It's a choice. I don't like to share CPTSD private stuff, nor my medical data, because I don't like to deal with ableism. Yeah, so that's a choice. That's not D.I.D. That's just I am choosing not to share this. That's kind of like, if you've got something important going on and you know that the audience that you're talking to or that you're with is not going to be supportive, you just don't share it with them because you don't need their negativity. So that's a choice. That's not D.I.D. D.I.D. is where you literally do not remember chunks of time, or that's dissociative amnesia. D.I.D. is where an alternate personality steps in and totally takes over and handles whatever situation is going on and has its own unique personality. That's D.I.D. Dissociative amnesia is where chunks of time are missing. You don't remember. Okay. So choosing not to talk about something, that's a choice. That's not D.I.D. That's choosing not to talk about something. So, Hope that answered the question. Okay. I started remembering everything differently when I went no contact with my family. I haven't remembered anything about being abused, but I realized when I was 46 that everyone was. I am better, but what do I do to keep getting better? Keep working on yourself. Honest to God, that is the key to everything. So somebody asked me the other day, they were like, well, do you do mirror work? Yeah, every morning when I brush my teeth, every night before I go to bed, I look in the mirror and I say something nice to myself. And it's a lifelong work in progress. So you're going to keep working on you. You're going to keep on your self-esteem. I keep working on my self-esteem. So like, let me give you a great example. So this week I had a huge kerfuffle with PayPal and my bank. So PayPal double refunded me something and I was like, what the hell? And then the bank was like, oh my God. And so they, and they were back and forth and everything. So then I go to correct it with PayPal and PayPal was like, well, no, you can't just take it from your bank and give it back to us. You have to get a separate account to give us back our money that we double refunded you on to your bank. Yeah. So it was like that little kid inside of me popped up and was like, oh my God, you did something wrong. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, I didn't. What the, and I had to work on that. I was like, where did that come from? Because it totally was not my fault. This was a PayPal issue and a bank issue. Finally got it all sorted out, but I believe I will be sending, no, I don't believe, I will be sending the CEO of PayPal a very nasty letter because this was not okay. Basically, essentially what it was is if you didn't have a debit card, they were not going to allow me to pay it back. And I'm like, but I owe you the money and this is not my money. This is your money. So it's in my bank account. It needs to go to your bank account. Oh, well, we won't allow you to access your bank account because, we had all of these issues. And I'm like, so I had to have John help me with that. Now, I'm a woman, okay? If I wasn't married, if I was widowed, if I was single, I would not have been able to fix this. That's what made me angry. It's like, use some logic here. If I've got the money in my bank and I need to deposit back into your guys' thing, you need to let me do that. But it was very misogynistic, very misogynistic. So be very careful using PayPal. That's all I'm going to say. All right. So, but it caused that inner child to pop up and go, oh my God, I did something wrong. I'm in trouble. No, I didn't. And I had to look in the mirror and go, sweetie, you did nothing wrong. This is a PayPal issue. This is a them issue. It ain't your issue. This is a them issue. They've got issues. So it's really kind of comforting that inner child and working on that inner child. It's going to be a lifelong process, guys. It's not a one and done. It's not a, oh, I did the work. I can rest on my laurels now. I'm fine. I don't ever need to work on myself. No, I do this every day. I work mirror work every day. And when weird stuff goes down, like the incident with PayPal, I will, have to do some mirror work about it because the inner child's immediate basic assumption is I'm wrong because I was in my family. It's like I couldn't ever do anything right. And inevitably, whatever, excuse me, went wrong was somehow my fault. Thanks, Dad. So you're going to be working on this the rest of your life. So really, it's Inner Child Workbook, Catherine Taylor, or Regaining the Inner Child by Lucia Cappuccioni, CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker, The Disease to Please Harriet Breaker, Facing Codependency by Pia Melody. What are the other good books? Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. Lifelong, guys. You're going to be constantly working. And if you're not working on the workbooks, you're going to be doing mirror work because that just keeps it going. And it helps keep you on the right track, basically. You don't ever want to rest on your laurels. You want to constantly be working on yourself in some way, shape, or form, whether it's, a quick mirror work in the morning. Hi, good to see you. Have a great day. You know what? You're a good person and I love you. Walk out. There you go. Boom. Less than 5 minutes. At night, hi, good to see you again. Here are 3 things you did right today. And then you list them off. Go sleep well, have wonderful dreams, and then go to bed. Again, less than 5 minutes. You are worth your time to go look in the mirror and do mirror work. 100%. So it's going to be a lifelong thing. It's not going to be a one and done. It's not going to be like, ah, I have arrived. No, I wish. Wouldn't that be nice? But no, it's going to be a lifelong thing. And then when weird stuff happens, like with institutions that don't have two brain cells to rub together, don't get me started, or use common sense, you're really going to struggle with that because the inner child's going to pop up and have whatever issues that your abuser gave you about how somehow it's your fault. So see where I'm going with that? So you got to keep working on yourself. Okay. I hope that answers the question. Is trying to fit in a DID symptom? No. I mean, when you want to be around people, but you feel that you can't be authentic around them, no, that is not DID. So fitting in, John and I just had a huge conversation about this the other day. Fitting in is something that damn near every survivor of abuse struggles with, especially if it's a family of origin issue. Because the family of origin was so messed up and so dysfunctional and so toxic, and they didn't teach us how to. Like, I look back at my younger find a big fluffy blanket and wrap her up in it and hug her and be like, sweetheart, you didn't know. Nobody told you the rules of the game. And then they kept changing them when they did, So we don't know how to fit in. I feel awkward as when I go socialize. I do, because I'm always like, okay, well, here's the authentic me, and most people are not going to like it. Because I'm like blunt, real. I don't put up with BS. I don't enjoy a lot of things that other people enjoy. John and I were talking about sports and things like that. I love sports. Do you think my dad would let me go see a sport? He insisted I go watch opera. Somebody, oh God, I hate opera. Hate it. Love the music. Don't get me wrong. Music is beautiful. The storylines. Good evening and welcome to Lie on My Couch and Talk to Me About Your Mommy and Daddy. Seriously. So my dad would insist, same thing with ballet. Everybody dies. What the So my dad would insist that whatever we did had to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Had to be intellectual and cultural and this, that, and the other thing. So all of my friends were all into football, baseball, hockey, etc. He never would take me to a game. I begged him. I'm like, please, 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 can we go watch the 49ers play at Candlestick Park? That's how old I am. Never did get to go to Candlestick. It's gone now. But, he never would take me to a game. Why? Oh, well, sports are not intellectual and they're blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what all my friends are doing. And I want to be able to relate to them because they can't relate to Swan frickin' Lake. Don't get me started. So yeah, and anytime I had an opportunity to socialize, my parents would mess it up. Oh, isn't that interesting? Isolation. So they will isolate you from your friend group in either intellectually or they'll do it physically. So I would get invited to birthday games or birthday parties, and they would say, oh, well, we need to do this, 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 and this. You can't go. Well, why not just drop me off? I'll be busy for the weekend or for the week or for, whatever's going over that hour or whatever. You go run your errands. Nope, we're not going to let you do that. So they never let me socialize. I didn't get to go to birthday parties. I lived so far outside of town. I didn't have friends. There were no neighbors around. So I was completely isolated. So and this is probably why I had the problems with the depersonalization, derealization when I went to college. I was awkward through high school, really awkward through high school. Who isn't? But, I think people who are abused are a little more so. When I got into college, it was like, oh my God, I don't know how to. I don't drink. I don't smoke drugs. I don't smoke. I don't, at that time I didn't smoke. I started smoking as an adult and then I quit, thank God. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, I didn't know how to. And, my parents' big hue and cry were, well, we are loners. We are loners because loners are better. And I'm like, you're a loner because you're a social weirdo and nobody likes you. Seriously. My dad, holy crap. That's the whole reason. Where's my book? I have no idea. It was here. There it is. What's wrong with there we go. What's wrong with your dad? A lady walked up to me in the drugstore and asked me that. Hello? Yeah. I mean, so we don't get taught how to fit in. We don't. I still feel awkward in social situations unless I'm with people I know or unless I'm with people that are, I'm helping. Like, I love the meet and greets. I do, because it's like, okay, I can help them. This is good, but I don't necessarily like social things where you're, going and, standing around, darling, cocktails, blah, blah. No, thank you. No, 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 no. I'd rather be doing something fun. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think a lot of us have got that awkwardness when we go into social situations, because I don't know about you guys, but my parents isolated the mother cluck out of us. Like, we didn't. And they would take us out of schools so often that I couldn't establish a peer group. So when I did establish a peer group, oh, look, dad's having a fight with the principal of the high school. Well, now I am going to have to be moved to, Richvale, which was stupid. And then from Richvale, I got moved back to Gridley. And then Gridley moved out to Durham because he couldn't stop fighting with people. And it's not fair to the kids. And this is why I get angry with, the parents that stand by and do nothing. My mom should have interfered. She should have stepped in and said, nope, we're not taking him out of school again. We're not doing this. Although I was glad to leave Richvale. Trust me on that one. But, so they do things, abusers do things to isolate their kids, to make them socially awkward. And then they give them this bull about how, intellectual people are, loners. Well, I like to be around people. I do. I like people. I just don't like social situations that I'm not sure, you know what I'm saying? They're still awkward for me. They still are, so, and probably always will be. So, I'll do them. Don't particularly enjoy them most of the time. So it depends on who's there and what we're doing. If we're doing something fun and it's game night, that's great. I can do that. But if it's all fake people standing around with their cocktails trying to impress each other, I'm just like, I got people to help here. People, go away. So, I have no time for that. So, but awkwardness in social situations. Yeah, I was always awkward in college, always. I could never fit in because I didn't party. And I went to Chico State, which at the time was the #1 party school. Yay. And I had to explain that to so many employers. So, I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't, so I hung out with a theater crowd and I enjoyed that. But even at that, I was an outsider. So, yeah, and they do that to us on purpose. 2 reasons. One, keeps us isolated so that we don't know, oh, hey, what they're doing is abnormal. And 2, they have complete control over us. And 3 reasons, sorry, 3 reasons, not 2. 3, if we succeed and we have friends and we're happy and we have a social life, we've done something they can't do. So yeah, I do have friends. I do have a social life. I just don't always feel comfortable in social situations, especially if it's people I don't know. So yeah, that's a normal thing, I think, for us because we weren't taught how to, and I've always been not envious, but I wish I could be, what's the word? Like, how do I explain it? I wish I could be one of those social butterflies that was just, hey, and not awkward. I'm getting better. I'm working on it. But again, work in progress. Work in progress. I've been doing this for years. I'm going to be 59 this year. It's a work in progress and it's stuff to always work on. So yeah, we do feel awkward. We do. We really, really do. It's that imposter syndrome. Remember how I talked about that? Was it last week, week before? Imposter syndrome. It's like, oh my God, they're not going to accept me for who I am. And some people don't. And that's fine because you're not my people. So it's always a work in progress. It's never, if you stop learning, if you stop growing, if you stop, what's the word I'm looking for? If you stop investigating, if you stop figuring out who you are, well, then why are you here? It's like, keep growing, keep investigating, keep being the best person you can, push the boundaries, So today I am having a little Super Bowl get together, but I'm having it with a friend of mine, Sam, who's a playwright, and we're going to probably play card games while the game is on. So, so it's just step out of your comfort zone every once in a while. I'm comfortable with Sam, but yeah, it is normal to feel awkward in social situations. It just is. If we've had parents that just did not show us how, so that was the long answer to that. All right. Any other questions? Let me double check. Yes. Do we need to get the memories back. You don't have to. It's enough to know that something happened. And that's what I tell my clients. It's like, look, you may get your memories back. They may come back in little, blips, or they may not come back at all. It's just enough to know that something happened. Oh, hell no. You know, and kind of work on self-esteem, inner child, and that's usually going to bring the memories back. Um, Boundaries, CPTSD, from surviving to thriving. As you work on this stuff, I betcha you start remembering stuff. Do you need to get all the memories back? Nah, it's enough to know something happened. And okay, so how's your self-esteem? Ooh, not good. How are your boundaries? Ooh, okay, let's work on those. So you strengthen the self-esteem, you strengthen the boundaries, and that's going to help a tremendous amount, whether you get the memories back or not. So yeah, because that's usually that time period that's missing is usually where the core issues happened. Something happened to cause us to lose self-esteem. Something happened to cause us to lose certainty. Something happened to cause us to doubt ourselves. Something happened to cause us to not like ourselves. Do you see where I'm going with that? So just work on self-esteem. When I say it is the core issue, I am not kidding. If you work on self-esteem, almost everything else is going to fall in place. Not everything, but almost everything. So there that is. Okay, let's see. I believe that is it. All right, you guys go have a fabulous day, and I will answer any other questions that I did not get to on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and anything else that comes in. Next week, I am going to be talking about how toxic parents specifically impact child of the opposite sex. So, how toxic fathers impact daughters, how toxic mothers impact sons. We're going to be talking about all of that. So, yeah. All right, my loves, you guys go have a great week, and I will talk to you on Monday. Bye.